Once upon a time, in a small village nestled among rolling hills and lush meadows, there lived a young boy named Jack. Jack was no ordinary boy. He was born into a family of shepherds, and from a young age, he learned the ways of the land and the ways of the sheep. But tragedy struck when Jack's parents passed away, leaving him alone in the world with nothing but the clothes on his back and a heart heavy with grief. With no one to turn to and nowhere to go, Jack found himself facing an uncertain future. Determined to make the best of his situation, Jack took up the mantle of a shepherd, following in his parents' footsteps and tending to the flock of sheep that roamed the hillsides. Though he was young and inexperienced, Jack possessed a kind heart and a steadfast spirit, and he soon earned the trust and respect of the villagers. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months as Jack tended to his flock with unwavering dedication and care. He roamed the hills from dawn till dusk, guiding his sheep to greener pastures and keeping them safe from harm. But life as a shepherd was not without its challenges. Jack faced harsh weather, wild animals, and the loneliness of solitude, yet he never faltered in his duties. With each passing day, he grew stronger and more resilient, his bond with the land and the animals deepening with every step he took. As the seasons changed and the years went by, Jack found solace in the simple rhythm of life on the hillsides. He reveled in the beauty of nature, the gentle rustle of the wind through the trees, and the soft bleating of his sheep as they grazed in the meadows. But amidst the tranquility of the countryside, Jack could not shake the feeling of emptiness that gnawed at his heart. He longed for companionship, for someone to share his joys and sorrows, his triumphs and tribulations. And so, with a heavy heart and a determined spirit, Jack set out to find his place in the world. He wandered far and wide, seeking adventure and excitement, yet always returning to the hills that had been his home since childhood. But no matter where he went or what he did, Jack could not escape the memories of his parents and the love they had shared. Their legacy lived on in him, guiding him through the trials and tribulations of life and giving him the strength to carry on. And so, as the sun set on another day in the hills, Jack stood tall and proud, his heart full of gratitude for the life he had been given and the journey that lay ahead. For he knew that no matter what challenges he faced, he would always find a way to overcome them, guided by the love and wisdom of those who had come before him. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, Jack set out once more into the unknown, his spirit unbroken and his heart filled with hope. For he knew that no matter where life took him, he would always be a shepherd at heart, forever bound to the land and the sheep that had shaped his destiny. In a quaint village nestled amidst rolling hills and golden fields, there lived a young lad named Thomas. From a tender age, Thomas dreamt of adventure and glory, yearning to leave behind the simplicity of village life and embark on a grand journey. As fate would have it, when Thomas came of age, the opportunity for adventure presented itself in the form of the kingdom's call to arms. With a heart brimming with courage and determination, Thomas bid farewell to his family and set off to join the army, eager to serve his kingdom and carve his name into the annals of history. Joining the ranks of the army was no small feat for Thomas, a mere village lad with little experience of the world beyond his home. Yet, he approached his training with unwavering determination, eager to prove himself worthy of the honor bestowed upon him. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, as Thomas endured the grueling trials and tribulations of military life. He marched beneath the scorching sun, honed his skills with sword and shield, and forged bonds of camaraderie with his fellow soldiers, each day bringing him closer to his goal. But amidst the camaraderie and the thrill of battle, Thomas could not shake the pang of homesickness that gnawed at his heart. He longed for the familiar sights and sounds of his village, the warmth of his family's embrace, and the simple joys of country life. Yet, with each passing day, Thomas grew stronger and more resilient, his spirit undaunted by the hardships of military life. He embraced the discipline and rigor of his training, channeling his longing for home into a fierce determination to succeed. And succeed he did, for when the time came for Thomas to prove himself in battle, he fought with the courage and valor of a true hero. He faced his enemies with unwavering resolve, his heart ablaze with the fire of determination and the desire to protect his kingdom and his comrades. As the years went by and Thomas's service in the army drew to a close, he emerged not just as a soldier, but as a true warrior, forged in the crucible of battle and tempered by the trials of war. He had faced adversity head-on, conquered his fears, and emerged victorious, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human soul. And so, as Thomas bid farewell to his fellow soldiers and set out to return to his village, he carried with him the memories of his time in the army, a treasure trove of experiences that would stay with him for a lifetime. He was no longer the naive village lad who had set out on this journey, but a seasoned warrior, ready to face whatever challenges life had in store. As he made his way back home, Thomas's heart swelled with pride and gratitude for the journey he had undertaken and the lessons he had learned along the way. For though he had left his village a boy, he returned a man, his spirit strengthened by the trials of his journey, and his soul enriched by the bonds of brotherhood forged in battle. And so, as the sun set on another day in the village, Thomas stood tall and proud, his heart full of gratitude for the experiences that had shaped him and the journey that had led him back home. For though his time in the army had come to an end, his adventure was far from over, and he knew that whatever the future held, he would face it with the same courage and determination that had carried him through his time in the army. In the tranquil countryside, where the air was sweet with the scent of wildflowers and the hills rolled like waves upon the earth, there lived a man named Jack. Jack was a simple soul, his heart as open as the vast skies above, and his spirit as free as the winds that whispered through the fields. After years of serving in the army, fighting battles and facing challenges that tested his mettle, Jack returned to his village with a longing for the quietude of rural life. The clangor of swords and the roar of cannons were replaced by the gentle bleating of sheep and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Yet, Jack's journey was far from over, for upon his return, he found himself faced with a new challenge, that of finding his place in the world once more. With no trade or skill to call his own, Jack sought employment wherever he could, eager to put his newfound strength and resilience to good use. It was then that fate led him to the doorstep of Old Man Jenkins, the village's resident goatherd, whose flock of goats roamed the verdant hillsides like fleecy clouds upon the sky. In need of a helping hand, Old Man Jenkins welcomed Jack into his fold, offering him a job herding and milking goats in exchange for room and board. At first, Jack was unsure of himself, his hands accustomed to the weight of a sword rather than the gentle touch required to tend to animals. But Old Man Jenkins was patient and kind, teaching Jack the ways of the goats and the rhythms of farm life with a wisdom born of years spent in harmony with the land. Under Old Man Jenkins' guidance, Jack soon found his footing, his days filled with the simple yet satisfying tasks of tending to the goats and tilling the earth. He marveled at the beauty of the countryside, the majesty of the mountains, and the serenity of the streams that flowed like veins through the land. But it was not just the beauty of nature that captivated Jack's heart, for in the gentle creatures that grazed upon the hillsides, he found a sense of purpose and belonging that he had never known before. He watched with wonder as the goats frolicked in the fields, their bells tinkling like laughter upon the breeze, and felt a kinship with them that warmed his soul. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Jack grew to love his new life as a goatherd, his heart overflowing with gratitude for the simple pleasures it afforded him. He relished the freedom of the open fields, the camaraderie of his fellow herdsmen, and the quiet companionship of the goats that had become his closest friends. And so, as he watched the sun dip below the horizon and the stars twinkle like diamonds in the velvet sky, Jack knew that he had found his true calling in life. For though his days as a soldier were behind him, he had discovered a new kind of bravery, the bravery to embrace the unknown, to follow his heart, and to find happiness in the simplest of pleasures. As he drifted off to sleep beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, Jack whispered a silent prayer of thanks to the goats that had led him home, their gentle bleating a lullaby that filled his dreams with peace and contentment. And as he lay there in the embrace of the night, he knew that no matter where life's journey might take him, he would always carry the memory of his time as a goatherd in his heart, a testament to the transformative power of love, friendship, and the quiet courage that lies within us all. In the heart of the countryside, where the sun kissed the earth and the breeze whispered secrets through the trees, there lived a man named Thomas. Thomas was not like other farmers. His mind was sharp, his spirit bold, and his heart filled with a passion for adventure that knew no bounds. Having served in the military for many years, Thomas had learned the art of warfare, mastering the tactics and strategies that had won him victories on the battlefield. But when the time came for him to lay down his sword and return to civilian life, Thomas found himself at a loss, his restless spirit yearning for a new challenge to conquer. It was then that fate intervened, leading Thomas to a small farm nestled amidst the rolling hills, where a herd of goats roamed freely, their bleating cries echoing through the valleys like the call of distant trumpets. Intrigued by the prospect of taming these wild creatures, Thomas approached the farm's owner, a grizzled old man named Farmer Brown, and offered his services as a goatherd. At first, Farmer Brown was skeptical, his weathered brow furrowed in doubt as he sized up the former soldier before him. But as Thomas spoke of his military experience and the skills he had acquired on the battlefield, Farmer Brown's doubts began to fade, replaced by a flicker of hope that ignited in his eyes like a spark in the darkness. With Farmer Brown's reluctant blessing, Thomas set to work, applying the same discipline and precision that had served him well in the military to his new role as a goatherd. He studied the goats' behavior with the keen eye of a tactician, observing their movements and mannerisms with a sharpness of mind that bordered on obsession. Before long, Thomas had devised a series of training exercises designed to instill discipline and obedience in the unruly herd, using military techniques to transform them from wild animals into obedient soldiers under his command. He taught them to march in formation, to respond to commands with unwavering obedience, and to follow his lead without question or hesitation. At first, the goats resisted, their stubborn natures clashing with Thomas's iron will in a battle of wits and determination. But with patience and perseverance, Thomas gradually began to gain their trust, earning their respect through acts of kindness and displays of strength that left them in awe of his power. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Thomas's training regimen began to yield results, the once chaotic herd now moving as one under his expert guidance. He led them through the fields with the precision of a general leading his troops into battle, their hooves pounding the earth in perfect unison as they followed his every command with unwavering loyalty. And as Thomas watched his goats march proudly across the countryside, their heads held high and their eyes shining with newfound purpose, he felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that surpassed anything he had ever known on the battlefield. For in the hearts of these gentle creatures, he had found a new kind of victory, one born not of conquest or domination, but of trust, respect, and the bond that forms between kindred spirits in times of need. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Thomas stood amidst his loyal companions, his heart overflowing with gratitude for the gift they had given him, the gift of purpose, of belonging, and of a home where he could finally lay down his weary sword and find peace at last. And as he watched the moon rise slowly above the hills, casting its silvery light upon the land below, Thomas knew that he had found his true calling in life, a calling that would guide him on a journey of discovery, adventure, and love beyond his wildest dreams. In a quaint village nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant meadows, there lived a man named Thomas who had earned renown for his remarkable ability to train goats. Thomas had spent years honing his skills, using military techniques to transform unruly herds into disciplined soldiers under his command. Word of Thomas's talent spread far and wide, drawing the attention of the village's wealthiest resident, a man named Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling was a shrewd businessman with a keen eye for opportunity, and when he heard of Thomas's trained goats, he saw the potential for profit. Determined to add Thomas's goats to his own vast holdings, Mr. Sterling approached the former soldier with an offer that seemed too good to refuse. He promised Thomas a handsome sum of money in exchange for his prized herd, along with the assurance of a comfortable life free from want or worry. At first, Thomas was tempted by Mr. Sterling's offer, his mind filled with visions of wealth and luxury beyond his wildest dreams. But as he gazed upon the goats he had trained with such care and devotion, he felt a pang of sadness tug at his heartstrings, reminding him of the bond they had formed and the adventures they had shared. Unable to bear the thought of parting with his beloved companions, Thomas declined Mr. Sterling's offer, much to the wealthy man's dismay. But Mr. Sterling was not one to take no for an answer, and he resolved to find a way to acquire Thomas's goats by any means necessary. With a cunning smile playing upon his lips, Mr. Sterling devised a plan to trick Thomas into selling his goats willingly. He invited the former soldier to his grand estate under the pretense of discussing a lucrative business opportunity, all the while scheming to deceive him into signing away his herd. When Thomas arrived at Mr. Sterling's estate, he was greeted with all the pomp and splendor befitting a man of his stature. But as he listened to Mr. Sterling's smooth-tongued promises and honeyed words, he sensed that something was amiss, a feeling of unease gnawing at the edges of his consciousness like a hungry wolf. Determined to uncover the truth, Thomas pressed Mr. Sterling for details about the supposed business opportunity, refusing to be swayed by his silver-tongued persuasion. And as he probed deeper into the wealthy man's intentions, he uncovered a web of lies and deceit woven with the skill of a master manipulator. Enraged by Mr. Sterling's betrayal, Thomas confronted him with righteous fury, refusing to be cowed by his threats or intimidated by his wealth and influence. And when Mr. Sterling realized that he could not bend Thomas to his will, he resorted to desperate measures, resorting to bribery and blackmail in a futile attempt to force him into submission. But Thomas would not be swayed, his resolve as unyielding as the mountains themselves. With steely determination, he stood firm in the face of adversity, refusing to compromise his principles or sacrifice his integrity for the sake of material gain. In the end, it was Mr. Sterling who found himself outmaneuvered and outmatched, his schemes crumbling to dust beneath the weight of Thomas's unwavering righteousness. And as the former soldier walked away from the grand estate, his head held high and his heart filled with pride, he knew that he had emerged victorious in the greatest battle of all, the battle for his own soul. In a village nestled amidst the gentle slopes of a picturesque countryside, there lived a young lad named Jack. Jack was known throughout the village for his unwavering spirit and tireless work ethic, traits that had served him well since the untimely passing of his parents. With no family to call his own, Jack had been forced to fend for himself from a young age, relying on his wit and determination to overcome the many obstacles life had thrown his way. And though he had known hardship and struggle, Jack refused to let despair take hold of his heart, choosing instead to face each new day with courage and resolve. One day, as Jack wandered the village in search of work, he caught the eye of a wealthy landowner named Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson was a man of great influence and affluence, his vast estate stretching as far as the eye could see. And when he saw Jack toiling away in the fields with a determination that belied his tender years, he knew that he had found a kindred spirit. Impressed by Jack's work ethic and eager to harness his untapped potential, Mr. Thompson offered the young lad a job working on his estate. Jack accepted the offer with gratitude, his heart swelling with pride at the opportunity to prove himself worthy of Mr. Thompson's trust and confidence. From the moment he set foot on Mr. Thompson's estate, Jack threw himself into his work with an enthusiasm that was infectious. Whether he was tending to the livestock or tilling the soil, Jack approached each task with the same unwavering dedication, his determination shining like a beacon in the darkness. As word of Jack's exploits spread throughout the village, he soon found himself the subject of admiration and respect, his name spoken with reverence by all who knew him. And though he remained humble in the face of his newfound fame, Jack could not help but feel a sense of pride swell within him at the knowledge that he had earned the respect of his peers through his own hard work and dedication. But it was not just the villagers who took notice of Jack's remarkable talents. Even Mr. Thompson himself was impressed by the young lad's ability to get the job done, his admiration for Jack growing with each passing day. And as he watched Jack work tirelessly to fulfill his duties, Mr. Thompson knew that he had made the right decision in offering the young lad a job on his estate. With Jack by his side, Mr. Thompson's estate flourished as never before, its fields yielding bountiful harvests and its livestock thriving under Jack's expert care. And as the years passed, Jack's reputation continued to grow, his name becoming synonymous with excellence and success throughout the land. But despite his newfound fame and fortune, Jack remained true to himself, his heart uncorrupted by the temptations of wealth and power. For he knew that true happiness could not be measured in material possessions or worldly acclaim, but rather in the simple joys of hard work, friendship, and love. And so, as Jack looked out over the sprawling fields of Mr. Thompson's estate, his heart filled with gratitude for all that he had achieved. For he knew that no matter where life's journey might take him, he would always be proud to call himself a simple farmhand, a humble servant of the land. In the bustling market square of a quaint village, there stood a small pen filled with goats of all shapes and sizes. Their shaggy coats glistened in the sunlight, and their gentle bleating filled the air with a soothing melody. Among the crowd of onlookers, there was one man whose gaze lingered on the goats longer than most, a foreign gentleman with an air of mystery about him. This foreign gentleman was none other than Count Vladimir, a wealthy nobleman from a distant land. Count Vladimir had traveled far and wide in search of rare and exotic treasures, and when he laid eyes on the goats in the market square, he knew that he had found something truly special. As he approached the pen, Count Vladimir's eyes sparkled with excitement, his heart pounding with anticipation at the thought of acquiring such magnificent creatures. And when he learned that the goats were trained in the art of military tactics by a young lad named Jack, his interest was piqued even further. Intrigued by the prospect of owning such uniquely skilled animals, Count Vladimir wasted no time in striking a deal with the goat herder. With a wave of his hand and a gleam in his eye, he purchased the entire herd, much to the amazement of the onlookers who had gathered to watch the spectacle unfold. But as Count Vladimir led the goats away from the market square and back to his estate, he could sense that there was something special about them, something that went beyond their physical appearance or their ability to perform military maneuvers. And as he watched them trot alongside him, their heads held high and their tails wagging in contentment, he knew that he had made the right decision in acquiring them. Back at his estate, Count Vladimir wasted no time in putting his new acquisitions to work. With the help of his trusted servants, he constructed a vast training ground where the goats could hone their skills and master the art of warfare under his expert guidance. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, Count Vladimir watched with pride as his goats grew stronger and more disciplined with each passing day. Their once clumsy movements were now precise and calculated, their once timid demeanor replaced by a fierce determination to succeed. But it was not just their military prowess that impressed Count Vladimir. It was their unwavering loyalty and unwavering devotion to their master that truly touched his heart. For no matter how difficult the task or how daunting the challenge, the goats remained by his side, ready to follow him into battle at a moment's notice. And as he looked out over his newly trained army of goats, Count Vladimir felt a swell of pride and gratitude wash over him. For he knew that with their help, he would be able to conquer any obstacle that stood in his way and achieve greatness beyond his wildest dreams. But amidst all the triumph and glory, Count Vladimir never forgot the humble origins of his newfound companions. For he knew that it was not his wealth or his power that had won their loyalty, but rather his kindness and compassion towards them. And as he watched them graze contentedly in the fields surrounding his estate, Count Vladimir knew that he had found true companionship in the most unlikely of places. For in the hearts of his goats, he had discovered a bond that transcended language and culture, a bond forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by the passage of time. In the heart of a bustling city, where the streets hummed with the rhythm of life, there lived a young lad named Tom. Tom was no stranger to hardship. He had known the bitter taste of poverty since he was a child. But despite his struggles, he remained steadfast in his determination to make something of himself, to rise above his circumstances and carve out a better future for himself and his family. One fateful day, as Tom was trudging through the crowded streets in search of work, he stumbled upon a grand mansion nestled amidst the chaos of the city. Intrigued by the sight of such opulence in the midst of poverty, Tom couldn't help but be drawn towards the imposing gates that guarded the entrance to the mansion. With a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, Tom approached the gates and rang the bell, unsure of what to expect. To his surprise, the gates swung open with a creak, revealing a sprawling estate teeming with life and activity. And standing at the threshold, welcoming him with a warm smile, was the owner of the mansion, a wealthy businessman by the name of Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was a man of great wealth and influence, with a heart as generous as his fortune was vast. And when he learned of Tom's plight, of his struggles to make ends meet in a world that seemed determined to keep him down. He knew that he had to do something to help. Without hesitation, Mr. Smith offered Tom a job as a groundskeeper on his estate, promising him a fair wage and a roof over his head. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Tom accepted the offer with tears of joy streaming down his cheeks, his heart filled with hope for the future. And so, Tom began his new life on Mr. Smith's estate, tending to the lush gardens and manicured lawns with care and diligence. With each passing day, he grew stronger and more confident, his spirits lifted by the kindness and generosity of his benefactor. But it was not just the beauty of the estate that captured Tom's heart. It was the sense of belonging and purpose that he found within its walls. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged somewhere, like he was part of something greater than himself. A feeling that filled him with a sense of pride and fulfillment that he had never known before. As the years went by, Tom worked tirelessly to repay Mr. Smith for his kindness, pouring his heart and soul into his work with unwavering dedication. And in return, Mr. Smith took Tom under his wing, teaching him the ways of the business world and grooming him for success. But amidst all the success and prosperity, Tom never forgot his humble beginnings or the struggles that had shaped him into the man he had become. And when the time came for Mr. Smith to retire and pass on his legacy to the next generation, Tom was ready and eager to step into the role of heir. And so, it was with great pride and gratitude that Tom accepted the keys to the kingdom, inheriting not only Mr. Smith's vast fortune but also his legacy of kindness and compassion. For in the end, it was not the wealth or the power that mattered most, but the bonds of friendship and the legacy of love that had been forged between them. As he stood before the grand mansion, surrounded by the beauty and splendor of his newfound wealth, Tom couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the journey that had brought him to this moment. And as he looked out over the sprawling estate that now belonged to him, he knew that he would do everything in his power to honor Mr. Smith's memory and continue his legacy of generosity and goodwill for generations to come. In the heart of a bustling city, where the streets buzzed with the energy of life, there lived a young lad named Jack. From the tender age when he was left orphaned, Jack had been on a quest for stability and comfort, yearning for a place to call his own amidst the chaos of the world. One day, as he wandered through the crowded streets, Jack stumbled upon a piece of land, a small plot tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. And as he gazed upon the empty expanse before him, a spark ignited within his soul. A spark of hope, of possibility, of a future brighter than he had ever dared to dream. With a sense of determination burning in his heart, Jack set to work, pouring every ounce of his strength and passion into transforming the barren land into a thriving oasis. Armed with nothing but his wits and a vision for the future, he toiled day and night, building a house with his own two hands, brick by brick, stone by stone. And as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Jack's labor bore fruit, as the once desolate landscape blossomed into a vibrant tapestry of life. With each passing day, he watched in awe as the fruits of his labor took root and flourished, filling the air with the sweet scent of success and fulfillment. But it was not just the physical labor that brought Jack's dreams to life. It was the unwavering belief in himself and his ability to overcome any obstacle that stood in his way. For despite the challenges and setbacks he faced along the way, Jack never lost sight of his goal, never wavered in his determination to create a better life for himself. And so, with the house finally complete and a sense of pride swelling in his chest, Jack stood before his creation. A humble abode that was more than just four walls and a roof. It was a symbol of his resilience, his strength, and his unwavering belief in the power of dreams. But Jack's journey was far from over, for with the house now standing as a testament to his perseverance, he set his sights on the next chapter of his life. A life of comfort and security, free from the burdens of poverty and uncertainty. And so, with a sense of purpose guiding his every step, Jack set out to make his dream a reality, investing in the land that had become his sanctuary and transforming it into a source of wealth and prosperity. With each passing day, his efforts bore fruit, as the land yielded crops of abundance, and the house became a beacon of comfort and security in a world fraught with uncertainty. But amidst all the success and prosperity, Jack never forgot the struggles that had shaped him into the man he had become, nor the lessons he had learned along the way. For it was through hardship and adversity that he had discovered the true value of resilience and perseverance. And it was these virtues that had carried him through the darkest of times. And so, as he sat on the porch of his newly built house, gazing out over the land that was now his kingdom, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the journey that had brought him to this moment. For in the end, it was not just about the house or the land or the wealth that he had acquired. It was about the journey itself and the person he had become along the way. Once upon a time, in a land where the sun painted the sky with hues of gold and the gentle breeze whispered secrets to the trees, there lived a man named Thomas. Thomas was no prince, nor was he born into riches and splendor. He was a simple man, with a heart as pure as the morning dew and a spirit as resilient as the mighty oak. From a young age, Thomas had known hardship and struggle. Raised in a small village nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant meadows, he had learned to toil the land alongside his parents, eking out a meager existence from the soil beneath his feet. But despite the trials and tribulations that life threw his way, Thomas remained steadfast in his resolve to carve out a life of happiness and fulfillment. As the years passed by, Thomas grew into a fine young man, with a twinkle in his eye and a smile that could light up even the darkest of nights. And though he had little in terms of material wealth, he possessed a wealth of kindness and compassion that endeared him to all who knew him. One fateful day, as Thomas went about his daily chores, he stumbled upon a hidden glade nestled deep within the heart of the forest, a place of unparalleled beauty, where the sunlight filtered through the canopy above in a dazzling display of golden rays. Entranced by the serenity of the glade, Thomas felt a sense of peace wash over him, as if the cares of the world had melted away in the presence of such natural beauty. And it was in that moment that Thomas knew he had found his paradise, his sanctuary, his home. With a sense of purpose burning in his heart, Thomas set to work, clearing away the overgrown foliage and taming the wild landscape until the glade shone with the brilliance of a hidden gem. And as he toiled day and night, pouring his heart and soul into every task, the glade began to transform into a haven of tranquility and beauty, a place where weary souls could find solace and respite from the chaos of the world. But it was not just the physical labor that brought Thomas joy. It was the sense of fulfillment that came from knowing he was making a difference in the lives of others. For as word of the enchanted glade spread far and wide, travelers from all corners of the land began to flock to its tranquil shores, seeking refuge from the trials and tribulations of their own lives. And as Thomas welcomed each weary traveler with open arms and a warm smile, he felt his heart swell with gratitude and joy, knowing that he had found his true calling in life. But amidst all the hustle and bustle of daily life, Thomas never forgot the simple pleasures that brought him happiness. A warm fire crackling in the hearth, the laughter of friends gathered around the dinner table, and the soothing melody of birdsong in the early hours of the morning. And so, as he sat beneath the shade of his favorite oak tree, gazing out over the glade that had become his sanctuary, Thomas couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and contentment wash over him. For in the end, it was not just about the material wealth or the worldly possessions. It was about the love and laughter that filled his heart, the friendships that enriched his soul, and the sense of purpose that guided his every step. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the land, Thomas knew that he was truly home, that he had found his happily ever after in the heart of the enchanted glade.